United States Border Patrol is told not to talk to the press. Chicago teacher unions are told not to reveal if they've been vaccinated or not. And Ron DeSantis of Florida is fighting back against critical race theory. And I have a lot to say about that. Before we get into our lead story today, I ask for your help in supporting me by clicking that like button so it helps with the YouTube algorithm and pushing my video out to other viewers. Please also make sure you subscribe as well as hit the bell button so you are notified whenever we upload a video, which is every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please also don't forget to share it with your friends and family. Our lead story today is in regards to immigration. Things have gotten so bad at the U.S.-Mexico border. Now the border agents aren't even allowed to talk to the press. It sounds like they're trying to zip this stuff up so that nobody has a clue what's going on. But this comes from our friends over at the Daily Wire. It is written by Tim Pierce. If you're not already a subscriber, please go over and become a member today. He titles it, "Border Officials Under Gag Order Barred from Speaking to Press Amid Immigration Crisis." Now remember, the Biden administration considers this just a problem and a challenge. They don't look at it as a crisis, even though they have sent FEMA in that deals with emergencies. That's the E in FEMA. So they will not even classify it as an emergency either. But it says here, Customs and Border Protection officials are reportedly under an unofficial gag order and barred from talking to the press amid a worsening situation at the border. And the situation at the U.S.-Mexico border is only likely to get worse, and that is all due to Joe Biden's soft messaging on immigration, the policies that he has put in place, as well as the policies that he has revoked from the Trump administration. Just to give you an idea of what is going on at the U.S.-Mexico border, in the span of 4 months, over 600,000 migrants have crossed the U.S.-Mexico border. In just February alone, almost 30,000 unaccompanied minors or single minors crossed the U.S.-Mexico border. In this month right now, we're at about 13,000 migrant children being held in custody. And then of that, 4,200 of these migrant children have been held for over 120 hours when the law is 72 hours. Moreover, Joe Biden has created an entire business sector through this immigration policy that he has put in place, where the violent gangs and the drug cartels are creating commodities out of migrants. That's how bad things have gotten. And Joe Biden here says, when he was in an interview with ABC News host George Stephanopoulos, the idea that Joe Biden said, "Come, because I heard the other day that they are coming because they know I am a nice guy. Here's the deal, they are not." Well, at least we know where Jen Psaki is getting all her BS from, and clearly it's coming from the President of the United States and rubbing off on her. This president literally thinks that they're not coming over because of him, as they have his name on their shirts as they're crossing the border. They are calling him migrant president. They are literally telling reporters, hey, we're coming over because of Joe Biden and his lax policies. So it's not like this stuff is made up, but who knows what's going on in this nutty guy's brain? Quite frankly, I don't think he even knows what's going on in his brain. Well, speaking of nuttiness and someone that doesn't have a clue what the hell's going on, you have Jen Psaki doing another presser, and it says here, reporters grill Psaki over lack of access to border crisis. You promised truth and transparency, which she did, but let's go ahead and check the clip out.
Go ahead.
Question about the situation on the border. It's now been 3 weeks since I think in this room you were first asked about getting us some press access. Why have we still not seen any images inside these facilities?
We remain committed to doing that, and I think these facilities are overseen. HHS, of course, oversees the shelters. The DHS oversees the Border Patrol facilities, and we want to work with them to ensure we can do it, respecting the privacy and obviously the health protocols required by COVID.
So I actually reported 3 weeks ago on this very question, where the reporter asked Jen Psaki, hey, are you cool with us coming in, taking some photos, bringing in some cameras, talking to some people? Just, we want to get a kind of idea of how bad it is, or if it's really as bad as people are claiming it is. We did it with the Trump administration. Are you guys cool with it? And then she kind of went off talking about how, well, you need to get Department of Homeland Security on board. You need to talk to them, not us. But the question for her was, hey, is the Biden administration cool with it or not cool with it? And then at the very end, she goes, oh, we're fine with it. Well, now we're 3 weeks later. They're still not allowed to have access. Border Patrol agents are being silenced from talking to the media. So there clearly seems to be some sort of cover-up or secrecy going on regarding what's going on at the border and these facilities. But she's claiming, oh, well, we just want to meet the CDC guidelines and their privacy. One, in regards to privacy, it was never an issue before. You just ended up blurring out the people's faces, which is fine. Nobody cares like necessarily what the face looks like. And then two, you saying, oh, we want to meet CDC guidelines. The CDC had to move their guidelines from 50% capacity to 100% capacity when it was down to 50% because of COVID. But because things are so bad at the border, you had to get them to increase the capacity so that you can put more people in these facilities because things are so bad. But the most frustrating too here is that the reporter's not pressing her or being disrespectful in the way that they were with the Trump administration. It's just somebody's just lying straight to your face. And they're like, oh, okay, well, thank you. And I have another question and a follow-up. There's no interruption on Jen Psaki. There's no rudeness coming across. There's no tone in it. It's just, oh, all right, well, thank you.
But even given COVID protocols and obviously privacy concerns, even you all haven't released any images that you obviously could redact if you wanted to.
Again, we remain committed to sharing with all of you data on the number of kids crossing the border, the steps we're taking, the work we're doing to open up facilities, our own bar we're setting for ourselves, and improving and expediting the timeline and the treatment of these children. And we remain committed to transparency. I don't have an update for you on the timeline for access, but it's certainly something we support.
You got to love that Jen Psaki just completely dodges this reporter's question regarding, hey, can you guys just go in and take your own photos, redact what you need to redact, blur out what you need to blur out. We just want to see what's going on inside these facilities. But we all know why Jen Psaki's dodging it. We all know why they're not allowing the press into these facilities and taking photos, or even the White House taking their own photos and redacting what they need to redact, because the place is in complete disarray and the Biden administration doesn't want to look bad. And so what they're doing is they're holding off on allowing anybody, including themselves, into these facilities until things get kind of in order. They can clean up what they need to clean up. That way, when people go in, they don't look as bad when the press finally is released to take photos and see what's going on inside these facilities.
One more question on this. We're hearing from border agents that they're frustrated that they can't show us what's actually happening along the border. They can't do ride-alongs. They can't answer questions about what's happening inside. It certainly seems like there's an element of secrecy here. Why?
I certainly wouldn't characterize it that way. I know there's Border Patrol agents quoted in a lot of your stories and you speak to frequently, and that's something we support. It's obviously there's a long tradition of coordinating with Department of Homeland Security, but if our policy is keeping people quiet, we are not successful, and it is not our policy to prevent people from talking.
It is not our policy to prevent people from talking, yet you have Border Patrol agents that are saying that you're stopping them from talking to the press, from doing ride-alongs, showing people what's truly happening behind the scenes. And so once again, I personally think that Jen Psaki here is covering up, the Biden administration is covering up the crisis that is going on at the U.S.-Mexico border. But I'll continue to keep you updated on everything that is going on there, the handling of the Biden administration regarding immigration, the policies that they're putting in place, as well as removing. I will make sure, again, that I keep you updated on all the recent and breaking news. Our next news story comes from our friends over at Blaze Media. It is written by the legend Phil Shiver. If you watch my videos, I comment on Phil's articles almost every single day or every other day. The man, again, is a legend. He titles it, Chicago Teachers Union Stalls High School Reopening by Telling Teachers Not to Reveal If They Have Been Vaccinated. Phil gives us the details on what's going on. He starts off by saying, for more than 2 months, the union has clashed with the city's school system, Chicago Public Schools, over its plan to resume in-person instruction. The union's complaint centered around allegedly inadequate safety protocols, despite the city spending $100 million to make the schools coronavirus safe. Last month, the district finally opened its doors to tens of thousands of students attending kindergarten through 8th grade after weeks of tense negotiation between the union and CPS. The union originally voted to defy the reopening plan and threatened to strike if any teachers were disciplined for refusing to return to the classroom. As part of its reasoning, the union claimed teachers' vaccination schedules were unsatisfactory. According to the report by WBBM-TV, in a letter sent to its more than 20,000 members, the teachers union advised that members wait to respond to CPS vaccination survey. The report noted that as of last week, CPS vaccination page showed that while 16,500 faculty and staff had been offered vaccinations, only about 4,200 reported receiving the shot. So many of you may not know this because you're new to my channel, but I teach high school mathematics. I've been in the classroom doing in-person instruction since September. Look, you wear a mask, you sanitize everything, you have the students use hand sanitizer, you stay socially distanced, you have them stay socially distanced, you're going to be fine. Also, I literally teach statistics, so I know the stats on the coronavirus and how it could affect me if I got it. My survivability is through the roof, so I'm completely not worried. And so what this tells me is that there's some loud voices in these teacher unions that are creating these demands that can't be met. And then there's other teachers, I would say a lot of teachers that want to get back in the classroom that do feel safe, but their voices are not being heard or represented by their unions. Because I know if I was in this situation, I would have no problem going back to work. And also too, regarding the amount of vaccinations that have taken place, that to me does sound like it could be a true number where you have 16,500 faculty and staff that have been offered a vaccination, but only 4,200 have been vaccinated. There is a line that takes place. I know for me, it's taken 2 weeks to kind of get in there and get my shot. And that's just the first one, not necessarily the second one. So that to me is not really a big deal where it's going to take time to get vaccinated. And if that was part of the negotiations that the teachers needed to be vaccinated before they get back in the classroom, I understand that. I don't agree with that. I think that you can get back in the classroom without being vaccinated. Those that have underlying health conditions, maybe there's a different case for them and that should be handled a little bit differently. But for people like me that are young and healthy, there's no reason as to why we can't be back in the classroom and doing in-person instructions and servicing these kids in the best way possible. Our next news story is regarding the great governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, removing critical race theory from the education system in Florida. Let's see what he has to say about it.
Florida civics curriculum will incorporate foundational concepts with the best materials, and it will expressly exclude unsanctioned narratives like critical race theory and other unsubstantiated theories. Let me be clear, there's no room in our classrooms for things like critical race theory. Teaching kids to hate their country and to hate each other is not worth 1 red cent of taxpayer money. So we will invest in actual, solid, true curriculum, and we will be a leader in the development and implementation of a world-class civics education.
I could not be more encouraged to hear this news that Ron DeSantis is getting rid of critical race theory from the Florida education system. Many of you don't know my story, but I wasn't always a teacher or an educator. I was actually a public accountant for a lot of years, and then I made a career switch into the education system to be a teacher. I specifically teach high school mathematics. But let me tell you, as somebody that was out of the classroom for 10 plus years and stepping back into it, it has completely changed. If you sat in that room, you would not even recognize the school system from when you sat in that very room years prior. There are classes that teach revisionist history classes. There are government classes that teach socialism is good. And you're not just hearing this from me, somebody that's heard it firsthand, but also from coworkers talking about it. And furthermore, you hear it from students about the stuff that they're learning in the classroom, and it is mind-blowing, completely mind-blowing. And one of those things that is also being pushed is critical race theory. Now, if you don't know what critical race theory is, I'm just going to give you a few excerpts on what some of the stuff is that they push. For example, racism is unconquerable and ubiquitous. It is the singular evil that underlies virtually everything wrong with our culture. It is the stain that will never be removed. Systemic racism and unconscious bias are built into the current structure of Western society. This cannot be remedied apart from the wholesale dismantling and restructuring of political mechanisms, economic policies, moral standards, and other social norms. It also goes on to say white people are members of the world's most privileged ethnic group. White privilege is not only one of the main proofs of systemic racism, it is also a subtle but sinister injustice to other people groups. Just some other ones that are completely mind-blowing. All white people are racist, whether they want to be or not. So just the fact of you being white, you never said anything racist, you're not racist, you don't even have racist thoughts. Just the fact that your skin color is white makes you racist. Also, whiteness is therefore an evil that must be confessed and repudiated, but without any guarantee of forgiveness. This is the stuff that is being pushed on your children. Your children are being indoctrinated in some of these school systems. I'm not saying every school system's like this. I'm not even saying every school system that teaches critical race theory even has that within their classroom. It might be up to the teacher, but what I will tell you, there are teachers that are teaching your children this stuff, and they definitely should not be. This goes against all the values our country holds. It's some neo-Marxist crap, man. Make sure that you are aware of what your student is learning. Be on top of their education, please. So like this stuff doesn't happen to your child where they're coming home and becoming a neo-Marxist through this crazy political, just evil crap that's being pushed here. Our last news story of the day is in regards to George Floyd and the autonomous zone that was built around his memorial. There was a reporter that was standing outside of the autonomous zone, and there was 2 protesters that came up and threatened him. Let's go ahead and check out the clip.
This area behind me is the George Floyd Memorial. This is where George Floyd was killed back in May. Take a look. These barricades have been set up by protesters and supporters of the movement. They don't allow anyone in, not even the police. It's called an autonomous zone. And
You're going to be in a bad situation here in a second.
oh, I thought if we were on this side of the barricade.
You're going to be in a bad situation in a second.
What do you mean by
Because
bad
you've been called
situation?
out for what you are and you need to get out of here.
Please go.
Even on
We
this
know
side of the
what
barricade.
you are. You need to get in your car and go.
We're just media.
I don't give a who you are.
Go ahead
You've been
and go.
called out for who you are. You need to get in your car and go.
It's very tense near the memorial, and a militant-style group has closed off several blocks with barricades.
Don't these people seem like they want to unify with you? Don't they seem like they just want to have a nice conversation with you to advance our country in a positive direction? Don't they seem like people that you want to have a conversation about police brutality, racism, discrimination? Of course you wouldn't, because these people are violent. They don't care about racism. They don't care about police brutality. They don't care about discrimination. All they care about is creating chaos. And that is the direction the Democrats are going, along with the left, is creating autonomous zones, creating societies or milieus that are not built around order, law and order, but rather built around violence and chaos. And that is exactly what we're seeing here. So it's no surprise that you have something like this taking place in a Democratic run area. Jacob Frey, the mayor of Minneapolis, is Democrat. Minneapolis is a Democrat ran area. You would never see something like this in a Republican area or conservative area because we don't allow it. It's not good for the city. It's not good for the locality. It's not good for the country. But you constantly have the left and Democrats that are completely cool with this. You have people being shot in these autonomous zones, which is kind of ironic again, because you're pushing police brutality and also, unfortunately, African-American men being shot and killed by police, but just shot and killed in general from each other. And now you have an African-American man being shot inside this autonomous zone and the police weren't allowed to go in and help them. It's completely backwards. It's upside down. It doesn't make sense. But again, this is the way the Democrats and the left run things. The last thing I want to say about all this is how the Democrats run things. I mean, you don't have to look any further than what's going on at the U.S.-Mexico border with the Biden administration not upholding the laws and regulations that are put in place. And then you have Minneapolis here not upholding the laws and regulations that are put in place. And now they're creating autonomous zones where people are being shot. This is how Democrats run things, which is why we need to stand up as conservatives, push conservative talk shows like this so other people can be reached, so we can actually unify this country rather than breaking it apart like you're seeing people in this video do, and create a better society for all of us. But if Democrats are going to continually run things like this, there's not going to be any hope for the country. We're only going to separate rather than unify. That is all the news I have for you today. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe, share it with your friends and family, and I will see you next time here on The Bald Brad Show.